Right, 6:45 here on this Thursday morning. Let's talk about Eskom now. It promises to work hard to keep the lights on this coming winter. Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan gave an update on the power grid and its plans to stabilise electricity supply at a media briefing yesterday. Joined by executives from the power utility, Gordhan ruled out load shedding, reducing it to occasional stage 1 power cuts should that happen. The country experienced blackouts recently due to a series of unplanned breakdowns of generating units and a cyclone in Mozambique. There was also talk of a lack of diesel. To discuss this further, we're joined in studio by Ted Blom. He's a mining and energy advisor. Ted, thanks again. Thanks so much for coming into the studio.
Good morning.
Talk to me about your impressions yesterday. I mean, did that instill a little bit of confidence in you?
Absolutely not. As far as I can see, this place is still being run by amateurs. They're not thinking out of the box, and they're relying on information which they themselves have declared deficient. The minister said that Eskom is short of critical skills. So he's been advised by skills that are not sufficient. And on that he's basing a promise of no load shedding. As far as I can read, he's actually putting the country more at risk of a total meltdown.
Yeah. Okay, so we're looking at costs now. And I mean, Eskom's financial crisis is a lot bigger than we had previously thought. 250 billion rand anticipated shortfall over the next 3 years. And this is large amounts of money.
Well, and they didn't give an answer. At the NYPD hearings, the NERSA hearings earlier on in the year, it was evident that at that stage already, there was at least a 50 billion rand hole. And I asked Eskom, I said, who's going to fill this hole? Are you expecting Father Christmas to come and fill it? Because you haven't planned for it. And now it's much bigger because of the additional burden of maintenance. But, you're talking to people who have not run this utility properly. You're now expecting them to pull magic out of the air. And I mean, I think it's fallacious. It's naive to think that we've now solved the problems. Yeah. Absolutely not.
Okay. So basically what you heard yesterday, do you think it's realistic? I mean, is there any... No, you don't?
No.
Okay.
You cannot... What the minister must understand, and I think he's maybe being ill-advised or he's learnt the wrong lessons, is that you can't dictate the load-shedding levels. That the system will tell you how much you need to load shed. You can dictate until the cows come home. But if the system needs more load shedding to save it, that's what you have to do. So I'm very worried that he's given the instruction to Eskom to cap the load shedding at 1,000 megawatts, which is stage 1. Because if that's indeed the case, and the system's operators need to shed more, and they don't, we will have a grid meltdown. This is serious stuff.
Okay, let's look at Kusile and Medupi, because this has not been brushed aside. I mean, there has been so much money spent on Medupi and Kusile. I mean, I think, what are we talking, 250 billion so far? And those costs must
and escalating, spiral. And escalating.
They have to. I mean, they're going to.
I forecast each one to cost more than 300 billion by cost to completion.
Each one? So we're looking at about 600 billion.
Because they're not even halfway finished with these two projects.
How, in what bad state are these
in a terrible state. If I can give you an analogy, it's like buying a car that's marked to go to 100 kilometers an hour. Medupi cannot, at its best, get to 60 kilometers an hour, and Kusile, at its best, cannot get to 20 kilometers an hour. So would you take delivery of a car that can't perform? Absolutely not. So it's totally abysmal to expect that those two power stations are going to salvage the day. And that's what they keep on thinking. They say they're going to fix it up, they're going to do this. They don't even know how to fix it up. They messed it up in the first place. To now think that the same critical staff shortage manpower is going to fix up something, I mean, it's really naive to expect that.
What are your recommendations with Medupi and Kusile?
Very easy, very easy. Replace that capacity, start over, call in the people who messed it up and get them to fix it up. And you start over and create capacity by hiring power barges. For the cost of 3 days load shedding, you can buy adequate power barges to put more than 4 gigawatts onto the grid, which is what Medupi or Kusile should be doing. If you want to really cover your behind, you buy 10 of those barges, and that'll give you hopefully 8 gigawatt. So the answers are there, and they can order them within 30 days. If this government, who is now taking control of Eskom, because I hear they control from Lutuli House, if this government wants to do what's good for the people and good for the economy, it will take those measures and not wait until the wheels fall off and then lament the situation.
You make an allegation that it's controlled by Lutuli House, Eskom.
Paul Mashatile tweeted it last week. He's a senior member of the ANC. Who might not believe him?
Yeah. I mean, that can't be in the best interest of the country.
Absolutely not. I don't think Lutuli House is rated as an energy specialist company by any means. So it's political decisions that are driving this, and it's political mess that got us into this place in the first place. So you know what? I mean, if they want to interfere and they don't let the organisation run on merit, then they must face the consequences. As easy as that.
So, in other words, what you're saying is that political decisions got us into this position,
Absolutely.
and yet political decisions are still being made.
No,
and nothing.
Political decisions and greed, because there was no way South Africa was ready to build 4 power stations in 2008. And that's what this political greed said that had to happen. One fell by the wayside because of political squabbling, and that was the nuclear option, which they tried to bring back in the last year or two, and the other 3 got built and got messed up. Each one of them is running at more than 10 times, or will run at more than 10 times the world average cost for a similar power station.
Let's talk about aging infrastructure, because that's also one of the biggest problems. I mean, I particularly live in an area where, you know, we never know if we're being load shed because, you know, the infrastructure is always down and it's broken, and it's the Roosevelt substation. It's a lack of management, and it's a big problem. Now, this is just one story that I am experiencing personally, and I think a lot of people experience it all over the country. What's being done there? I mean, did you get anything out of this aging infrastructure from yesterday?
No, there was no solution to that. And it's very simple. You know, these oil transformers need to be changed. They need an oil change once every 7 years. And then they run forever. So this organization cannot even do an oil change once every 7 years.
Yeah.
And the monitoring equipment's there. I was there at Eskom when we approved the monitoring equipment to be put in to manage the condition of the plant. What's happened subsequently is the capturers have ordered that this stuff be removed so that the things can blow up and they can make more commission out of replacing it. So this is deliberate capture and greed. That's all it is.
I know during the press conference yesterday, Minister Gordhan called on political parties not to use what's happening at Eskom as a political electioneering tool. I mean, is that possible when we find ourselves in this kind of position? And you are alleging here that this is still political interfering and it's a big problem. So, I mean, how are political parties not going to jump on this bandwagon?
Well, if the political party, which is supposed to be managed via Parliament, gets hands-on involved in running the energy utility on a week-by-week basis, because that's where we are now, then they mustn't cry foul. If you can't stand the heat in the kitchen, stay out of the kitchen. And this minister has put himself in the kitchen, the president has put himself in the kitchen, they mustn't complain about it. Yeah. They're getting what they deserve.
There's also a call from the minister for South Africans to do their bit. I mean, do we have any involvement in this? And we obviously do, because...
We could.
So what do we as citizens need to do to help?
We talked just now about solutions, and that's what you're asking now.
Yeah.
It's very simple. If this government was honest about sorting out the problem, to sort out daytime load shedding, the first thing they would do is open up the grid to household solar. So you and I can go and get our solar, put 8 gigawatts of power into the grid, and we wouldn't lose jobs because of load shedding. And I think that's critical. People are tired of losing jobs and being put at risk because of bad management decisions at Eskom. So if the government, of course it's going to come at a cost to Eskom, because they'll be losing revenue. But the fact of the matter is, what's more important, saving 30,000 fat cat jobs at Eskom or saving the economy?
If we have to look at this issue of load shedding, because the promises that were made yesterday, and we do believe, I mean, we can have a look at this. We're in election time, and the ruling party has its hands behind its back because, you know, the more you load shed, the more you start losing votes. So they're promising that there will be no load shedding. If there is, it'll only be stage 1. You mentioned at the beginning of the interview that they can't determine that. It's the grid, and only the grid that can determine
the condition
that.
of the grid.
So that promise, do you think that can actually happen?
It's got no value. You can't promise. It's like me promising you that I mean, I don't know, the angels are going to fall out of the sky or come and save us or whatever. That's not possible. I don't have any control over the environment. And it's the same here. The minister has no control over the grid. The grid will tell him when you need to load shed and when you when you don't need to load shed. But if the grid says you need to load shed and you don't load shed, that's what I'm saying is you increase the risk for a meltdown. And under the current dictates, from what I understand, and if I'm wrong, the minister must come out and tell me so. But the fact of the matter is, if you dictate that the load shedding is capped at 1,000 megawatts, and the system tells you need more, you're looking for trouble.
Yeah.
The system always wins.
I want to dig a bit deeper into what was said yesterday, because the Eskom systems operator, Bernard Magoro, actually went and said, and he said it quite confidently, that outages could be kept to below 9,500 megawatts, and noted that power plants operated better in winter. From your experience?
Okay, so the fact is that power plants do operate better in winter. That's a fact. I mean, the bottom line is, what you can't control, what he's alluding to, is that unplanned, now listen, unplanned, not planned, unplanned breakdowns are capped at 9,000. I mean, by definition, unplanned breakdowns are unplanned breakdowns. So now they're trying to control unplanned breakdowns. And that just shows you that they're totally naive. They don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
With respect.
Okay, so just one final issue to talk about is law firm De Beer is planning a class action against...
I read about that.
And that's a big one, against Eskom. Over load shedding, they've called businesses who've been have been suffering through this with financial losses due to the load shedding and no electricity. I mean, what are your views on this? What do you make of a class action against Eskom on top of all the other debt that they're going through?
Okay, so I think there are more prudent actions to be taken against Eskom, amongst others appealing the tariff increase of twice the inflation rate. As far as the class action is concerned, I've looked at that, and I'm not a technical expert, but as far as I can I analyze accounts by the day and by the week, the problem with that class action is that the technicalities of defining the different types of classes have been ignored. So I don't think these lawyers are energy experts, and I think that they've trying to put a very simple solution to something that's actually a little bit more complex. So if they want to do one class action, I would say that their chances of winning are probably really negligible. If they were going to do a multitude of class actions, because there are a multitude of classes, they might have a better chance. But that's not the easy win. The easy win is to have one class action properly defined, and you go to court and you get a judgment. In this instance, all the classes, different classes have different definitions. For instance, there's municipal customers. Each municipality's accounts are differently defined. Eskom's clients per region, for the same charge, is about 20 different definitions. So I think it would be technically far more complex than what the lawyers probably assumed when they made that statement.
Yeah. Just, I know I keep saying it's my final question to you. I know that we're running into time constraints, but what I want to find out from you is, it was a comment made by another analyst saying that what they've offered us yesterday is too little too late, and that is not the solution. Nothing they put on the table is going to help the situation. And I'm gathering from what you're saying, you're in agreement with this. They need to go back to the drawing board on it.
And they need to, if they admit that they're short of skills and advisors, they need to sort that out first. It's no use listening to people who haven't got the skills and haven't got the experience, and then base your recovery plan on that. I mean, that's just naivety in its extreme.
Yeah. All right. So if we have to look at skills, I've just heard that we've got a little bit more time. I'll go up until the news now. The skills, because there was a promise that they wanted to get back the skills into Eskom, the skills that has been lost to try and help them get out of the situation. Where are we on that? Have they managed to get skills back into Eskom? Not that there aren't any skills, but the skills that were lost that they desperately need.
Look, as far as I can ascertain, they've made noises about that, but I don't think any actions happened other than one pensioner who's been brought back to the executive. I have not detected, and I was asked to bring a team as well, and we've been left in limbo. So I don't know, and maybe they don't want my team. But the fact of the matter is that I haven't picked up that there's actually been any successes in that area. I think there's still it's just all hot air.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose one of the biggest problems, however, is besides the fact of keeping the lights on and the fact that we saw these increases coming in this month as to how much you and I are going to be paying for electricity, there's also this big axe hanging over the country's status. And Eskom is the biggest driver of all of this. And that is perhaps the biggest thorn in our side right now is Eskom and the power problems.
Absolutely, and I happened to host a luncheon yesterday with foreigners, investors, and I must say that regrettably, they left that lunch more depressed than when they arrived there. They had meetings with Eskom. Seemingly Eskom is trying to spin the story, but it's not a credible story. Eskom is in deep financial trouble, and the market knows it's in deep financial trouble. And no amount of spinning is going to sort it out. They need to have competent management with a competent plan. You can't have a recovery and a turnaround without a proper documented guideline as to what will be achieved with milestones and when those things are going to be achieved. At the moment, I'm afraid we are being left to go from in limbo, and what's happening now in reality, if you stand back, all the government is doing is kicking the can down the road. They know the trouble's going to hit the fan, and they know that they're in dire straits, but they're not prepared to do anything drastic about it now. This requires drastic action. Opening up the grid, bringing in power barges. That's what needs to happen to save your and my jobs and our economy. That's what needed, not more hot air and ministers' meetings. Sorry.
Let's leave it there. Ted Blom, Mining and Energy Advisor, thanks so much for talking to us here on Morning Live. The time, 7 o'clock. Let's get your news.